Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the WGL EU Season 4 Match Day 1. It's been a while since we've been back here, but it is good to be back with some good damn tanks on the way. And obviously, I'm joined by my partner in crime. Laughter, how are you doing?
I'm very, very excited for Season 4. That's about it.
Yeah, I think we're both on the same page. And obviously, there's someone else waiting in the wings who we'll be bringing in after the game. We had to give you a reason to stay around, and Melly will be joining us a little bit later. But do not fear, she is still around. And there has been a lot of changes coming into the season. A lot of things have been updated, and I think you can probably take us through a couple of the things that we should be looking out for coming into this season.
Sure. So I think everyone can agree that Season 4 is really likened to be the most competitive season we've ever seen. It's really incredible. We got such a stacked lineup of 12 teams, all vying for a place in that finals we have coming up, the offline finals, and also vying for a place at the grand finals, which we had recently in Poland. And congratulations to Navi for winning that one.
Certainly something to work towards.
It was a fantastic event, and it really does give teams something to work towards, as you said. So we've got 6 new teams coming in, very, very good. We saw, for instance, Wusa at the grand finals. Maybe didn't do as well as they wanted to do.
They showed some potential, though.
But exactly, they showed some potential. They got some great players in there. C-Play also comes to mind. They've been doing very well. You've got to mention them. I mean, they've been doing extraordinarily well in the likes of Go4, winning that a couple of times. So 2 of those teams to look forward to. We'll be seeing Lucky Kuraki first up against Virtus Pro. And that's going to be an interesting game because we have seen Lucky Kuraki before. They were in Season 1. Didn't do so well, but they've learned a few lessons. You can check the interview out on our brand new portal.
Well, speaking about the brand new portal and things that have been updated from season to season, obviously there is a slightly new looking website. We can take you through a little bit here and give you an idea of what it is because there's a lot of new features, a massive change up of looks as well. Take us through some of the things we've got here.
Yeah, sure. So you can see the matches. That's for the Gold Series. That's the top teams, the top 12 teams in the Wargaming Europe for Season 4. You got your news post there. You can check out the interview we did with C-Play up the top. That's the feature news. If you want to have a look at the what they have to say about the season coming, you can have there. If you look at the top, you go look at leagues. You can see the gold, silver, and bronze. If you click on gold, you can see the teams, and you click on the logo there. You can see the ranking as we do go through this season, and the ranking at the top as well will be showing our Hall of Fame. If you just head over there, you can see as we go through seasonal statistics build up, your top players, your top teams, and everything like that. And we can have a quick look at one of the team profiles, for instance, hit C-Play.
Well, they're going to be coming up today. Oh,
exactly.
Wow, this looks really nice.
You've got your kind of passport photos on the right with all your players. You've got the matches there, the victories, battles, and defeats there, percentages you'll see as we do head through the games, and also the team sponsors and stuff. So everything looks pretty clean and neat, and the social medias at the top. You got Hall of Fame, media, which will show you videos. So it's a really stacked portal page, and obviously we'll be developing it we'll be developing as we go through the season. We're getting new changes every week. There'll be lots of improvements. So I think great things for that portal, and much easier for you guys to really get involved with the esports teams for World of Tanks.
Yeah, it does look pretty damn good, I've got to say it, and there's a hell of a lot of stuff up there. If you want to recap towards what happened in Season 3, if you've had a little bit of a break away from competitive tanks, then check it out on the site, obviously WGLEU.com, takes you straight over there, so head on over and make sure you have a look yourself. And we can kind of start talking about the first game we've got coming up today, because that's the important factor here, is seeing what the teams have been doing during that slight break, between, if they took part in it, the World Grand Finals that everyone was battling out for, and maybe some of the new teams coming through. So obviously we did talk a little bit about that first game coming up, and why don't you take us through some of the teams that we'll be seeing and maybe a couple of things that might have changed for them during the break?
Sure. So Virtus Pro, they came second. It's one of the teams we'll be seeing first today. They came second at the grand finals. I think they've had a little bit of a break and maybe a little bit of a breather since then. They haven't been doing so well in the likes of Go4. So I think they'll be wanting to get themselves back into the game.
Yeah.
Other changes we've seen since the grand finals, for instance, Synergy, which was Team Dignitas, now known as School Bus SB. Stalker has left that team. He was the team captain there. Now it's pretty much led by Arklit, the guy from Red Rush Unity, and I really do wish that team the best of luck. Other changes include GG Well Played heading over to the North American scene. They're going to be replaced by Drooling Leprechauns, which is another Finnish team, great name. So basically we've got the whole of Arsop, which is a Finnish tank clan, in the Wargaming League. So I think we're going to be expecting more uli pushes like we've seen from Spale. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I think every team's had their changes. TCM has got Still Mojo, the team captain of Kaznakru, was on our analysis desk for the grand finals as well. Eurofish, who was the team captain for Spale. So we got loads of cool stuff. I'm just looking forward to seeing this because it's going to be just such an extraordinary season.
It certainly will be. Hopefully you can just give the teams a little nudge now, because we are almost ready to get this one underway and give them a little bit of help here, because obviously it's not just new to us, it's new to them as well. There's been various updates and various changes. And to kind of take you through some of those, obviously, as Ollie mentioned, we can take you through the lineups you're about to be seeing. So for Virtus Pro, you're pretty aware of these guys by now. Bishop, Breakneck, Delight, Diver, Entex, Just Cause, and Kusok in there. Whereas Lucky Kuraki, maybe a little bit newer to your eyes, Bishu in there, Jamal, Kelly. There's a couple of new faces that are certainly looking to make a name for themselves once again within the WGL EU. It's where all the best action goes down. It's where the best players can prove themselves. Who's the standout player from these two?
I'm really looking towards Delight to step up. I thought he had a couple of issues, and Bishop at the grand finals, he made some very cataclysmic mistakes, especially if you remember that game on Mines. Just not good stuff against Na'Vi at all. Lucky Kuraki, not sure if you guys really remember them from season 1 of the WGL. They've had a couple of changes, but not too many. More of an upgrade, more of a consistency change than anything else. And you can see Virtus Pro, their statistics have been modified a slight bit since we've been going through the grand finals. Obviously, the changes have made there. It's really a big change. I think aggressiveness down a little bit, creativity down a little bit, but fight coordination, accuracy is still up there quite a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Virtus Pro, one of the best teams. I think everyone knows that now. And Lucky Kuraki, you're going to have a bit of a troubling time coming against giants like these. If you remember back, we looked at Na'Vi's stats as well when it was in the grand finals, and these two were so damn close. The aggressiveness was slightly lacking from Virtus Pro, but they looked very different in those grand finals. They kind of pulled themselves back together. They went for some creative tactics as well, which sadly enough caught them out occasionally. It seems that they can't quite muster themselves into this aggressive beast that the likes of Na'Vi can, so that was where they're kind of, their journey ended, let's say. I don't want to give away too much, because obviously if you haven't watched the grand finals, it's something to go and have a little check out of, because some brilliant results happened. And there you can see Lucky Kuraki, not quite to the same level, let's say, as Virtus Pro. Not much you can really say to it, but Lucky Kuraki, a good team nevertheless. A lot to prove here, I think, is the best thing for us to say.
Yeah, I think they've got a lot to prove and a lot of work to do. Obviously, these rankings are just based off what we've seen in the likes of Go4 and other tournaments. They've got maybe a little bit better in some respects, maybe a little bit worse in some respects, but generally that's how we feel they're progressing, and as we do head through the season, that ranking will be changing as well. Aggressive, not particularly high. I think they're a little bit of a passive team, and we've seen that doesn't bode well in the general online stage. Accuracy down a little bit, but generally fight coordination, decision making still up there, so we can expect some good games against Virtus Pro.
Oh, we certainly can, and it's a trial by fire for Lucky Kuraki. If there's anyone you'd want to avoid in your initial games, their name would certainly be up there. So my heart bleeds a little for these guys, because you might want to start warming up to the season, get used to the team show, get ready to once again play tanks a hell of a lot, because this is Super Week coming up. We've got a lot of games in these 4 days not too far away, so it's going to be a hard test for Lucky Kuraki. And obviously you've been casting these guys for a little while in Go4s or even back in Season 1. Now, what sort of maps do you think they may be strong on that could really suit their playstyle?
So, like a lot of the Polish teams, they're very good on city maps. They have that heavy tank skill. If you just check their profile pages, you can see that they all love heavy tanks. They love their IS-3s, their T-32s, their 5100s. So I think on your Ensk, your Ruinbergs, your Himmelsdorfs, your Winter Himmelsdorf, I should say, they're going to be doing very well, and it's certainly going to put some fight against Virtus Pro. But on the maps like Steps, Mines, Prokhorovka, maybe start heading towards Virtus Pro a little bit. They have that coordination with the AMX 3090s. And mentioning the kind of tanks we might be expecting to see, we are playing on 9.0. Obviously, this is just on the live server, so all the changes you see in 9.0, which is not a lot in terms of balance changes, so the tanks are pretty much going to stay the same. We're not really going to expect anything different. Obviously, there's been graphical and back-end changes to the World of Tanks client, but that doesn't really affect us too much, so I think we can expect kind of similar kind of play style. Obviously, as we head through the season, the meta for the game will start to progress a little bit more.
Yeah, I can't wait to see if any teams are brave enough to try out something different. We saw, some of the more, let's say, progressive teams are leaving us to join the NA side, so I'm hoping some of the new additions kind of pick up the same sort of attitude and look for ways to improve, because, when you're playing Virtus Pro, it's very easy to fall back into the game of let's just play them at their own style and hope we get, it going a little bit better, but sometimes you need to look outside of the box to take down these giants. I always look back to, your Spales and your Kazna crews, who are always able to kind of bring these kind of out-of-the-box tactics that, sometimes they fell apart atrociously. Let's not take away from that fact. But, they caught out the big guys. And I think, maybe Lucky Kuraki, a creative side, who could maybe do something. They may be slow, but, what sort of options do you think they'd have? Let's look at their weaker maps, possibly.
Sure.
What could they actually do there?
They need to catch Virtus Pro by surprise. It's really the way you beat them. You're not really going to be able to... The kind of player skill Virtus Pro has and the coordination they have in general is extremely high, so their ability just to take down tanks and focus fire is going to be extremely good. Well, Lucky Kuraki, they need to get that element of surprise, maybe pull out a lineup you haven't seen before with a 5 AMX 1390s or something like that. But generally, it's going to be about just consistent play, making sure you have all the basics for World of Tanks down, focus fire, blocking, and make sure you get the flank on right. But we are just about to get into game. Our first map will be Ensk.
Yeah, it will be indeed, and it will be Lucky Kuraki starting, I believe, in the south in red, and in the north it will be Virtus Pro in blue. And as you said, this could be a map we would see something interesting beginning on from these teams to see how well they could really improve here and what they could possibly bring out to each other. And maybe this could be a strength for Lucky Kuraki going forward. But your thoughts here? Where are your predictions coming down?
I got to give it to Virtus Pro. I mean, the new dogs on the block really need to prove themselves before they can take down these guys, these old dogs. And you got to remember, Virtus Pro second to none. Simple as that. Only Na'Vi beat them, and only on that last map, the tiebreaker map. So I think it's extremely hard for them to beat them. But you can see Lucky Kuraki heading over towards the right side, CNNK with that tier 1 going first. Karak, the team leader, team captain, team mascot, whatever you like to call him, heading over there. Bitchu and OBX in those two 50-100s. A little bit of a strange lineup and a little bit of a strange tactic in general. Keeping 2 of the IS-3s back and sending the rest of the tanks towards the right. Well, Virtus Pro, just the normal standard start, just heading up towards the north, putting their tanks up in towards the city, and making sure that they have every kind of angle covered.
Well, first couple of shells have come through. Kusok there, letting one fly in the IS-3, but obviously not really picking anything up, as we do now know. Lucky Kuraki trying out a little bit of the green zone. And it's a weird split they're coming out with. Lucky Kuraki putting a couple down on the back left and the back right, whereas Virtus Pro playing quite a standard approach to Ensk. Nothing we really... No, well, it's pretty much what we expected. That's their style. They love playing that kind of back-to-basics tanks, and it works for them. And I've got to ask you the question. We know that Lucky Kuraki are not the most aggressive of sides. They're not the team that will take the initiative here. Will it be down to Virtus Pro maybe to move in towards the south along the west side of this map? Yeah,
you can already see them doing that. I certainly agree. They are the ones who need to take the first move, and they need to be breaking Lucky Kuraki's obvious kind of camp. And I don't think it'll be a particularly hard job because of the way Lucky Kuraki's kind of situated. South, west, well, a couple of tanks up south, east, so a little bit of a change. It's kind of hard. You can also notice that Virtus Pro have got Pavel on there in that 50-100. He's going to be a key player. He was playing for Synergy, but he's moved over to Virtus Pro after the grand finals, after pretty much a disastrous result from them.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how that comes into effect, as we do see these guys starting to edge towards a bit of movement. Actually, and Virtus Pro not known for exactly their aggression themselves either. They can they play fairly slowly as well. So I'm curious to see if they actually really do find a way to get a little bit more in the faces of Lucky Kuraki, known for their defensive styles. But you can see down on that bottom corner, there's a little bit of an exchange going through. Vorsik will be met with a little bit of resistance very soon. McMoney, Kelly, and Matt PL are waiting the wings. Vorsik receives a good bit of damage, gets the shot back, however. He is out on a limb, let's bear in mind. These 3 tanks could really punish him. Oh, stunning shot. 406 HP left. That's not looking good for Vorsic very early on.
Yeah, but that's quite a lot of shells used by the side of Lucky Kuraki. You can see Virtus.pro already starting to crush in, come in from the sides, maybe trying to find an angle. And at the end of the day, yeah, okay, Lucky Kuraki have done a bit of damage to Vorsic, but can they continue that?
Yeah, as you said, they're very split up. Keep your eyes on the team to the north-east of the map as well. See what their plan is, because Kusok is desperately hunting around for a pixel out of place. He finds it. That's Matt receiving 400 damage there. Not a great deal you can do when you've got players like Kusok just in the perfect position. And now the rest of the side of Virtus.pro bring themselves together here. Is there any escape for these three tanks?
There's not. I don't think they can get themselves out of here, but Virtus.pro also need to be careful because those tanks have been spotted up north. They need to deal with them. Only the tier 1 up there. Bishop trying to get himself some damage. Matt PL takes another big shell from Breakneck, who's on reloaded in that IS-3, but he will go down, but now Lucky Kuraki on the charge.
Yeah, and they got to make this one count. Virtus.pro on the retreat now, coming right back to that flag. As we know, Bishop was the only player down there, but he's in a tier 1. Not a great deal can be done. Just Cause and Vorsic will be the first two on the scene. Do you think they've got what it takes to take down the rest?
They might just have to be careful because they've taken a little bit of damage. Just Cause going to have to go first in that 50-100, but he probably will be able to do a little bit of damage. He's got about 10 seconds to do it. I'm not sure if they'll be back in time.
Oh, here we go. We're going to find out. First shell does come through. Object is not in the cap circle. Just Cause comes back. I don't think he landed the shell. He musters right out. Perfect timing coming through from Just Cause. But Object comes around, takes him down. And the time is the biggest factor here. And just about Lucky Kuraki holding on. Object still stays strong. Takes another shell, but he goes down. As Povil now moving in for the kill. Time has been bought. Bishu receives another chunk of damage. Going low now. There's the second shell. 21 seconds left. These shots are all resetting this cap. Bishu, one more shell will take him down. Just 3 players standing now against the 4 of Virtus.pro. Povil now moving in for more. He's hungry for these kills. And you can see that CNNK is not too far beyond reach here. An easy clear-up job for Povil there. But the big question is, where is McMoney and can he do anything?
I don't think he's really got much of a chance here. He's got pretty much four tier 8 tanks left for Virtus.pro. Okay, they've lost a little bit of HP, but he's on his own down to 383 HP. Breakneck's probably just going to be able to come and finish him off. Indeed, he does, bringing the scores up to 1-0 to Virtus.pro at this point in time. Maybe not such an unexpected result. I think the problem there just came down to the fact that you saw that tier 1 in the cap. Bishu was doing it pretty well. He had that.
He was nicely positioned as well, I've got to say.
He was very well positioned for like 95% of it, but that was that 5% which really let him down because he kind of got distracted with shooting. And also, the tier 1 played pretty badly. You have to stay behind. A 50-100 is like a barn door. You have to just put up a wall and sit behind it. But one of the tier 1s went out for some reason, and he got himself killed. If he didn't die in that position, it would have been a certain win for Lucky Kuraki. So that tiny little mistake made by that team cost them that match indeed. And I think Virtus.pro were kind of lucky to get away with that. Maybe some nerves coming from that new team.
Yeah, definitely, but obviously first map in the bag there for Virtus.pro. I don't think it's a big surprise to us. Virtus.pro are the heavier favourites, but it is good seeing Lucky Kuraki playing with not the most aggressive of tactics, but certainly having a plan. They had, you know, the initiative to come up with something like, hey, let's do the split. And what did you think of that split, actually? Keeping those 3 tanks held back, you know, Matt down the bottom there. Was that, you know, a bit of a bait play to keep them, you know... or to keep Virtus.pro busy, should we say, before they could just flat out rotate back?
Yeah, I think actually their plan was very, very good, and I must admit it was kind of meta breaking in some respects. It was interesting, and it worked perfectly, but it did rely on that tier 1 staying alive, and that's what really let them down there. So I think they're going to be feeling a little bit gutted about that. But then again, this is their first match, the first map of the first match, so I think they're going to be improving as they go forwards. I wouldn't really be too worried as a team. Virtus.pro as your first team is pretty harsh.
Yeah, it's not the nicest opponent to come in towards.
No, and it's going to be a test for them. Hopefully, I mean the problem with Lucky Kuraki wasn't really they didn't have very good players in the previous seasons, or maybe the tactics weren't very good. They just seemed to lose motivation as they went through.
Right.
And that's what they need to be fixing into this season 4. And you know, a little note about the teams we'll be watching in general. We are going to be watching every single match. A lot of guys have come up to me on Twitter and Facebook and the likes saying, oh, which matches are you going to be streaming? If you check the schedule, we've scheduled all the matches, so we'll be watching every single one of them.
More of us.
Every single match will be streamed. So every single team, every single matchup, everything will be streamed. So you can check everything out, not two matches like we did beforehand. So I think that's definitely a good change, apart from the fact that they have to see us all the time.
Yeah, it's always a downside. We do apologise for that part. But still, we can start looking towards the next map. I believe it's going to be Cliff. Now, it's another new addition, let's say, to the season. We didn't have it in our previous map pool. If people maybe only watch this, you know, as their World of Tanks update, what can we say about Cliff that people may not know about already?
It's a very good map. As simple as that. It's extraordinary. I really love it. It was a good map. It was actually in the Go for map pool when it was first released. I think it was 2012, maybe 2011.
So lucky Kuraki will know this inside out.
The teams know it. It's been around for a long time. The balance changes made it so we could actually re-enter it into the map pool. Now it's kind of balanced north and south before, and you could kind of get the higher ground easier and get to the middle island easier. But it's pretty symmetrical. It's all about getting the middle ground, being sneaky with the flanks. It's a map about flanks, because you've got the right or the left, depending on which way you look at it, big lighthouse rock, and then you've got the middle area below it, and then you've got the rock on the left, and you've got the lower side. And how you flank around on those four pivots is really the most key thing. But it is a fantastic map. I would have to put up there with Himmelsdorf for me.
Well, it certainly found its place at the finals. It looked brilliant to watch back then, so I can't wait to see it in regular season and see some of the European-based teams actually really getting a good chance to get to grips with it, on a regular basis. Before, obviously if you play it in a Go for maybe once every 2 weeks or whatever, then you get to know it and you play it obviously just normally. But when you play it on a competitive level, week in, week out, that's perfect for the little bit more of a higher skill gap. So I did look towards the Russians, and they looked so damn proficient on this. It was hard to tear your eyes away from it. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of the maybe newer European teams stepping up to the plate and maybe able to find a challenge there. But we can kind of look towards what sort of tanks we expect to see as well, because it's a weird one to kind of call out. So what do you expect to see coming out from these two teams?
So you don't want to really be having your IS-3s. It's too slow to get up the hill. You want to be looking for the T-69s and the Pershings, really, because it has got quite a few slopes. Not that many, but quite a lot in the key areas. So you want to be having the gun depression and the kind of matlet arm which come from those tanks. AMX-3090 is obviously an important factor pretty much in every map, apart from city maps. Even on Ensk and Himmelsdorf, it was used at one point. So you want to be using those tanks, hull down positions. A lot of snapshots. Pershing maybe doesn't have the greatest aim down time. That's the only kind of thing I can think which is bad with that tank. But the T-69 certainly is a good tank for that. So AMX-3090 T-69's Pershing. There's not really been any changes to the map, the tank pool, so we won't really be expecting that. We also saw the 416 from Virtus Pro, which actually, to be fair to them, did work.
I wasn't sold on it.
I wasn't 100% sold.
But you can see where it could work.
Yeah, it's a backline sniper, and it does do a lot of damage. So you just need to use it right and make sure that you have the right situation for it.
Yeah, we did question maybe a 5100 would have been better, I believe, in that position before. So maybe it'd be interesting to see maybe again if you would choose that tank over the 5100 in the second application, because obviously now they've had time to work on it, look through the previous results and go, well, okay, it worked well to an extent, but then this is where it went wrong. How can we adapt it? So this will be the first time we'll be seeing it kind of back in the regular season, obviously, and we are ready to get into Cliff, our second map here. Currently, it will be Virtus Pro with 1 point against Lucky Kuraki, sadly, with nothing so far. And we'll be jumping into this one in just a moment's time. It will be Lucky Kuraki on the red side, starting in the south, and in the north, Virtus Pro in blue. Now, we've also had some rule changes in regards to the way we play. It's going to be, not the same way we had it before. It's more towards the way we had the World Finals, if we look at it that way. Now, what can you mean with that, or can you explain to us in the aspect of tier points now?
So, not that much not really that much to change. I mean, it's pretty much more of the same, I think. The grand finals. I mean, not too much happened. I mean, you can see how Virtus Pro has gone up. Oh yeah, well, okay. One big change, I guess there is is going to happen is the tier point rule. So there is no tier point rule anymore. We removed it. There's no tier 8 point rule anymore. So if you have the 8 points more than the other team at the end of the battle, you no longer win. So that's always a good thing. First exchange going down between Virtus Pro and Lucky Kuraki. Not really any big changes, big advantages, but Virtus Pro starting to edge ahead.
Yeah, Virtus Pro with the early fire. Kelly being focused down. One player now removed. Object is low. 422 just coming slamming in. Another shell does connect. Oh, but there's just cause down. It's not going perfectly. Breakneck's being challenged. Oh, my word. 246. Breakneck's left on nothing. He goes out. This could be Lucky Kuraki doing a good bit of damage here. But let's bear in mind, those T69s still in play and that 416 still sitting fairly pretty.
Yeah, Delight is going to have to do some damage here with his M63 as he can, having to head back. Creed's now getting himself in the game, but those 5100s for Lucky Kuraki really paying off.
Yeah, right now it's Virtus Pro moving in. Kuritz and Delight pushing through. Delight round the corner. And it's not playing the back roll sniper, but it's getting quite in the faces and it's done the job towards Matt. He's had a big jump. Bishop. One shell, doesn't get the second. Bishop needs to turn, gets the shell. Delight finishes. Great work from Virtus Pro. This Hitman squad of 3 tanks just rolling around, spotting out these Lucky Kuraki players. And now just Bishu standing. Bishop moving in. He fancies more of this. First shell connects. He's actually been held in place. Bishu could do some damage, but still he's gone so damn low that Bishop wasn't on to get the kill in the end. I believe it was Delight round the side, and these 2 players working as a hit squad, doing phenomenally well.
Those 5100s at the beginning did well. They did well to fend off the damage from Virtus Pro, even though after a quick push from them, knowing that they had to get the damage early on. But the problem was, once those 51s were reloading, you could see Delight heading in with that the 416 and just getting that consistent damage down, which really did put the thorn aside for Lucky Kuraki. And at the end of the day, it does look like Virtus Pro will be taking this map up as well, seeing NK team leader only 1 left on that side. And yeah, just another, even though they were on the back foot at one point, or it was even, Virtus Pro just knew that they had the advantage with that 416.
But let's bear in mind, without the tier point rule, if he can somehow hide and stay alive for 7 minutes, they would draw out this map.
Yeah, they would. Yeah, exactly. You're right.
I don't think he's liking the idea of it, though, if he's going that close to the cliffs.
Yeah, he's got to be careful there. He doesn't want to drop off. But you can just cap, and with 1 tank, it's 1 minute and 45 seconds anyway, so 1 minute 40 seconds. But yeah, without that tier point rule, if you push in at the 2 or 3 minute mark, and then you run away with one tier 1, then you pretty much take the game anyway. So CNK is going to have to try and stop this cap regardless. Maybe he could have done it a little bit later, but he knows with 6 minutes and 25 seconds left on the clock that Virtus Pro will probably find him at some point.
Yeah, they're not a team to mess around. And to be fair, it does add to the point that people ask why tier 1s are in this game a hell of a lot. And this is another level as to where we'll see them coming into effect. Very important factor to it now is if they do stay alive and play it smart, they will be winning the games. And right now, 4 seconds away from Virtus Pro picking up the second map here after a very, very strong start. They looked formidable with that 416 and the T69 in combo. It was pretty incredible to watch.
It was a masterclass of tanks. You can have a look at the damage. Indeed, Delight in that 416 really heading up that with the 1,593 and 3 frags to his name. Yeah. So again, okay, Bishu did 1.5k at the beginning, and that did a lot of damage to the likes of Vorsik and Just Cause. But once they'd unloaded those 6 shells in the 5100, that allowed Delight to go in and pretty much just have free reign for 44 seconds, which is that reload on the 5100. And 44 seconds with a 416 it's a lot of damage, and that's really what helped them get through that game. But I'm happy so far with Lucky Kuraki's performance. They've shown that they can win. They just need to refine their tactics a little bit.
Yeah, and it's not a bad way to begin for them. I think they can be fairly pleased with their performance. As you said, they have a lot of things to work on now, and they can watch it back and go through what happened, what went wrong. Obviously we have 2020 vision here, and we have all the knowledge in the world in front of us, so we may always give you like they should have done this and this and this. When you're in the action, it's harder to do that analysis midway through. You just want to focus on what's at hand. So if they watch it back, I'm sure they'll be in the same position as we are, understanding where it went right, where it went wrong, and where they can improve on, because let's bear in mind, Virtus Pro are the best from this region, arguably, and we'll have to see what they can bring in the future now.
I completely agree. Virtus Pro are really in a class of their own without the strength. I think we have to see how School Bus does without Stalker and the changes they've had there, and without Povil, who was their best player, who's now moved over to Virtus Pro. I think, with Povil, Virtus Pro is really as good as Na'Vi. They were pretty much as good at the grand finals. just a couple of mistakes, but Povl just brings their player skill up so much.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think Virtus.pro is right at the top, and this is really why I questioned, for instance, why GG Well Played moved over to North America, because they could have been that second place team without Synergy being as good as they were. You know, they could have been really heading up the European region if they wanted to, but obviously the North American region a little bit more tempting for them. But next map, it's going to be Ruinberg. Virtus.pro at the moment in the driving seat with 2 maps to their name. What we'd have expected, obviously, with the rule set for season 4, if you get 3-0, then you take the game and you get 1 point, 1 score to your name. So none of this playing 5 maps for a winner.
None of that malarkey.
Yeah.
All right, you know, it's nice seeing these teams push a little bit, which is good. They need to kind of stay their aggressive selves, because it does make them, you know, play even better. You see the teams who can handle that pressure, and it just adds to the excitement. So, as we said, you know, this could be the deciding map, and it's going to be Ruinberg. So, an interesting choice coming up. Haven't been a big fan of some of the playstyles I saw during the offline finals. I felt it was a bit of a shame that we didn't see a lot more of the action on there, you know, with the crescent moon push almost. You see that big battle going down straight away. A lot of passive play came out during the finals. I don't feel like we'll see that here, though.
Yeah, it was strange. It was like in Season 3 for all the regions, everything was about the crescent moon and the F-Road. But then at the grand finals, everyone was like, nah, we're just going to sit back, or we're just going to push straight into the city. I mean, that game against Fnatic and PvP Super Friends comes to mind.
I think it'll never be forgotten for a couple of players.
That was interesting, and obviously some changes coming to Fnatic in the North American region as we go through into season 4 for them as well. So that was not my most favourite map for the grand finals. I think that right goes to Himmelsdorf. Gotta remember that play between Elian and and Povl. In fact, that was really sick.
And it adds to it even more that it was Povl that he was against, because in the heat of the moment, I forget who's against. I just see the tank, and I think Elian did the same. But then you look back, you're like, Jesus Christ, that's Povl he's against, one of the most high skill cap players you're ever going to meet.
This guy was at the top of damage done for 3 seasons in last year, 2013. He was the top player. So yeah, that is considered to be one of the best players in the world, and certainly one of the best players in Europe. Full stop. So yeah, incredible game by him. All I can say is, with him in that team, as I said a minute ago, Virtus.pro is just going to go from strength to strength, and it's really going to be a season of who can beat them, who can unsettle them a little bit. I have mentioned that maybe have a little bit of downtime after the grand finals. They've just been playing a little bit more casually.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's good to reset.
It's going to be a team of. It's going to be a season of who can beat Virtus.pro, certainly.
Well, we had some contenders last time around. Sometimes teams that none of us really expected to be able to do it as well. That's the major factor here. They were always challenged by the underdogs. It wasn't the teams that were in 2nd and 3rd to them. It was the ones down in 7th or 8th or some, you know, obscure position where maybe they underestimated it, and without that, you know, individual skill, let's say, that's on par with that previous Dignitas team, or even Denova back then, you know, that's when they got caught out, when they don't have these players that can just step up and go, well, you know, I'll just punish you. Whereas, you know, with Povl there, that's pretty damn hard to deal with. So we're almost ready, I do believe. I'm hoping that the players are close to being ready in this one, because, you know, I don't like seeing my face here. You know, I don't like seeing his face. But, you know, we're waiting on the teams to get ready. Yeah, I know. I've missed you, right? You guys have missed the World of Tanks.
Yeah, it's been a lot of work heading to season 4. We haven't really had a chance to really cast World of Tanks. We had a go for monthly finals. Yeah, that was
pretty nice. Yeah.
But yeah, it's been interesting setup for season 4. Hope you like the new portal, as we mentioned earlier. You just head over to WG League, eu.wgleague.net. It's got all the team information as we go through the season. All the statistics, all the graphics are going to come alive, and you'll get to see the whole website move through. And it's going to be fantastic. We're going to be having VODs from the match days up there. Everything's really going to be looking really sick. And the Hall of Fame, of course, will be updated with the statistics for each player. You can even head over to ru.wleague.net, where you can see how everything's going to look. They've already had a few match days in that region, so you can kind of see Na'Vi, 7 players from Na'Vi at the top of the Hall of Fame. The rest of the region. So yeah.
What can you do against a team like that? But you know, the tanks have been selected, and we never really spoke about the tanks that can be an option here, and what's your safe bet, because that has been another change throughout this. It's not the back and forth tank picks that we had before. We're using a different style of doing it. It's almost it is the blind picks coming coming into this one. So it's about hedging your bets sometimes rather than going for an all-in lineup. Now, do you think that's been reflected in these choices?
It reflected in the last map when Lucky Kuraki took those 5100s. Because you have to send in your lineup to us beforehand, and then you just pick it. And Virtus Pro probably had to come up with something on the fly, and you could see how kind of haphazard their strategy was, which is just like push over the middle and try and do as much damage as they can. So yeah, I think it's going to make everything a little bit more dynamic, more exciting. Teams won't be able to easily as predict and counter the other team, and that's going to create some interesting dynamic situations where on maps you see, you know, like a KV4 or KV5 or something come out where you're just like, well, what can this do? And it just, you know, blows us away with some really superb tactic. Maybe.
We're in first day here. We'll find out. You know, this is them testing the waters of the first game in the first day. We are just waiting on the final map. Hopefully the teams are now ready.
Should be.
Hopefully. And we will get this one underway. And guys at home, obviously, once again, we'll be getting you some social media ideas very, very shortly and how to get involved. But we want your predictions as usual. Make sure you tweet through to myself and Oliver at They Call Me Pansy and at Laughter WOT with your thoughts of who's going to win this game, Virtus Pro or Lucky Kuraki. Right now, it is sitting 2 maps to the advantage of Virtus Pro. No real surprise there, but it can all change. Let's have a little look to see what we have going on here. As we said, Ruinberg, there are your tanks. 2 5100s for Virtus Pro, T69 a 1390 GO as well, and for Lucky Kuraki, interesting choice for the IS3s.
Yeah, they've gone for a slower setup. I mean, this is pretty much what they've really picked on every single map. They've just loved those 5100s and those IS3s. They picked an AMX 3090, which is kind of the only standard thing. Yeah, 150, 100 maybe, like, or maybe 2 like Virtus Pro, but 2 5100s, 2 i3s, and 3090. Very, very strange stuff. And predictably heading towards a city with that heavy lineup, they got a lot of damage to punish Virtus Pro, with Virtus Pro heading up towards the high ground, which I think is even the better idea. Because they got the faster tanks and they can get the snipe down into the F-road. But yeah, interesting stuff from Lucky Kuraki. Not particularly fast, very easy to hit, but certainly can punish you if you make even the tiniest of mistakes.
Well, 9 minutes left on the board. And as you said, Just Cause being able to spot out pretty much most of the movement, or the initial move from Lucky Kuraki, so the game might be helped up, but I don't feel as though this is going to go too well for these guys, considering that in reality, Virtus Pro are fully aware of their tactic. They've got a bit of an all-in strategy, but what can Virtus Pro do to break this now?
I think putting some pressure on the cap of their tier 1s, maybe even use a 5100 like Lucky Kuraki did on Ensk, putting it in front, the 2 tier 1s behind, and just going for that quick cap. That could certainly work, but yeah, they can't really go for the head-on engagement because of the IS3s. 2 AMX 3090s from Virtus Pro, it's very hard to deal with an IS3. You have to kind of get behind it, the penetration not too high, 244. T69 as well, 250 with heat. Certainly going to be hard to penetrate an IS3, really, whatever way you look at it, even from the side, especially from the front. So that's going to be tricky for them. But yeah, they need to come with something a little bit clever. The 5100s are going to play a big part. As I said, I want to be seeing Delight step up this season and really prove to us that he's a worthy player, worthy adversary to have in that team and against other teams. So him in the 5100s really going to have to play well. Bishop next to him as well. Made so many mistakes at the grand finals. I think he's going to be wanting to prove himself as such a young player.
Well, we are seeing a couple of spots come through, but not really much damage done initially. As you can see, everyone so far still sitting on full HP here. Dear little Karit's going walkabouts, trying to find anyone, and you've seen Kuraki, they're doing the same thing. So the tier 1s are trying to do their job, trying to find these spots, trying to find the opponents. But as you said, Virtus Pro can't go head first into this team against them. There's no way they can do it. There's no point going head on into an IS3. And they're going to have to come up with something different, as you said. But, I'm not sure if Virtus Pro are ever the team to do that. They never really do that aggressive play. They always play, smart. They play safety games. And I'm not sure what Lucky Kuraki are planning on. Maybe try to draw out the map. But I'm not sure that would really help them in this situation. It's
almost like they saw the grand finals tactics and kind of copied it maybe a little bit. Pretty similar lineup. Maybe the 5100s didn't feature, the i3s didn't feature so heavily, but yeah, I'm not sure if they're going for the win. I think what they want to have happen is for Virtus Pro to push in with most of their tanks, and then just out DPM them and out armor them and out HP them to the point that they really can't do much. But then Virtus Pro can just run away with one tier 1, because if Virtus Pro are a stupid team, they won't push in within the first, well, even within the first 7 minutes with it against a lineup like Lucky Kuraki, unless they have a very good idea. So they're going to be pushing over towards the 7-8 minute mark, maybe put a tier 1 up in towards A0 or K0, and then seeing what happens. If they win, they win. If they don't, then they just get a draw anyway.
We'll have to remind ourselves the impact of what a draw means, and at the moment obviously Virtus Pro with a 2-map advantage. If this was the grand finals, that would mean they'd actually walk away with the victory, I believe, as it was counted as a 1-1 pickup basically.
Yeah, if they drawed.
So at the moment Lucky Kuraki can't just rest on their laurels. So we saw what happened with them when they took the initiative. They did very well on the first map, to be completely honest, and we have seen Carice just been taken down there. Tier 1 has fallen. A little bit of funky music in the background just to highlight that. And we'll have to see where they go from here. The Tier 1's still looking for anyone they can spot.
Yeah, well,
I wonder if they can do anything about that.
Yeah, well, Matt Peel has to be careful that he doesn't overextend. He's been very tempting to go forwards, but yeah, I think losing that one tier 1 for Carice going down for Virtus Pro certainly is a big blow to them, and that capping tactic won't be able to be used.
Well, right now, let's have a little check and see what the positioning is with Virtus Pro. From top to bottom, Bishop, as you're seeing on your screen right now, keeping eyes on here. This is where Fnatic pretty much crumbled in those World Finals when it all went wrong, sadly for Nagatron. Delight in support as well. And you can see the positions pretty much giving them complete vision over anything that could possibly make a move. Kusok would be the linchpin in this as well, as he's so close to the opponents. He's just keeping eyes on that. Breakneck doing the work a little bit further forward. But still, all of Virtus Pro playing very cautiously, being very careful here.
Yeah, they don't want to go in too far. They've just been spotted there, so they need to make sure that they take their time, they bide their time a little bit, and come up with the best solution to this problem. And Lucky Kuraki definitely on the camp. You can see this man Kelly on your screens right now. He did play for Panzerfist, so he's an extremely experienced team member, really, at that first international offline event in 2011, playing for 1SPP Panzerfist. They actually took second there to the Red Rush. So very, very experienced, very good player, and certainly good to see him back in the competitive scene. And Kusok does fall to Mac Money in the AMX 1390, so second blood as well going to Lucky Kuraki. But Virtus Pro with a little bit of information, they know kind of where Lucky Kuraki is, and they can maybe come up with something as well. Obiek though getting caught.
Yeah, Breakneck has been watching this cross for a lifetime here. He did manage to find Object the first 2 times, but now obviously Object with a little bit of cover. Not so easy to find, but as you said, being spotted out by Virtus Pro, not exactly the best way to be. He's still out on a limb, however, Breakneck. If he's not, if he's not careful here, he could get caught out. The rest of his team are way further back. Delight and Bishop moving in maybe to a more supportive position. Vorsic as well getting towards possibly the village, as it looks like there's a counterattack being mounted by Lucky Kuraki.
Yeah, Mac Money and Kelly going to push up. But Kelly's though in the 5100, so he's going to be pretty slow just cause. Does land that first shell, but 1 versus 1 and 1 hit down. Mac Money's going to struggle.
Well, let's see where the action really unfolds. It's going to be surely with Breakneck, Object, and Matt PL now moving round. Oh, look at that crossfire. Object can't make a move without receiving a face full of damage. Another shell surely will do the job, but backup has arrived. Breakneck's low, but he gets the kill anyway. Bishu needs to back the hell up, as you're seeing the other fire coming in from Bishop, from Delight, from that firing squad from afar. The cap has begun, and let's bear in mind, Virtus Pro, they're not completely sitting pretty. Bishop's received a good chunk of damage, as Delight, but Vorsik's off. He needs to get back. He must defend this, as those 2 tier 1s are looking to cause trouble.
Yeah, Mac Money's certainly says in the game still. Kelly needs to retreat. He's with Mac Money. Luckily, those 2 are together. Yeah, but the tier 1s are in the cap, and only 1 minute and 13 seconds left. CNNK and Kuraki gonna have to try and get out of there. Vorsik is on the retreat, going to take those 2 out very easily. But that will allow Lucky Kuraki to reset those 2 tanks up north, the 2 tier 8 tanks, and get themselves into a good position, knowing that Vorsik's out of position.
Well, let's find out if Kelly and McMoney can do anything. As you said, the last two really standing against quite a substantial lineup. But we must remember here, tier point rule, not the same, but Delight could have a good chunk of information literally rolling past him right now. Delight's turret swings around, spots out Kelly, spots out McMoney, and this looks like this could mean real trouble, but he's held in place. McMoney receives a chunk of damage. Kelly tries to do something, but that 5100 is soaking it up. Kelly is in trouble, down to 448. Surely a couple more shells will do the job. Second shell comes in, one more will do the job, and McMoney is all alone with 1 minute to hide and 4 of Virtus.pro to hide from.
I'm not sure exactly what Kelly was doing then. He should have just gone for the kill. He already knew he was caught out. The only thing he could do was try and catch him out as well, but McMoney, the only one left against Vorsic.
Yeah, Vorsic was the one first on the scene here. McMoney because nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and Vorsic does the job with the rest of the side, and Virtus.pro pick up their first match here. Very well played, clinically done. I don't think a great surprise to either of us.
No, and you can see Delight does step up to the plate there, 2.9k damage done in the AMX 5100. So that's the reason why they won almost 3,000 damage. That's 2 IS3s in the bag for him. Very, very good play by Virtus.pro. But again, Lucky Kuraki showed they had potential. I think you saw some glimmer of hopes there. Just a couple of misplays, and the problem was that Virtus.pro had that central area. Lucky Kuraki tried to push it. The rest of the tanks around the central area for Virtus.pro could just get the shots onto the side of the IS3s pushing around. And you know, when you have the likes of the MX-3090s and the T69s getting the side shots on with the backup from the 5100s, you really do get taken down very quickly. A couple of player areas like Kelly at the end, he should have stayed and just gone for the shots against Delight because he knew he would never get past them anyway. So you might as well just try and get the kill. But yeah, pretty good play by Virtus.pro. I'm quite impressed by them. I think they got tested a little bit by Lucky Kuraki.
Yeah, there was moments.
Responded well. But yeah, Lucky Kuraki certainly looking to be a top 6 contender as we head into the season.
Definitely potential there. Some great initial plans. Whether it be executed well or not, I think is the main thing. I think on Ensk I saw the most hope there. I love that little strategy. You know, the bait and switch almost. Bait them down to the south, have the engagement, and then be drawn all the way back up there to the flag cap where there's still a substantial amount of tanks. So nicely played. I think a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of reading back through, watching it back through. We could see a really talented side here. But obviously, all in all, Virtus.pro still looking very strong. Yeah,
they're undoubtedly the kings of the season. And Pavel sliding into that team very nicely.
He didn't even look like a new addition. He just looked like been there since the start.
Exactly, and it's probably because he's played with the players before, and you know, he's been around the scene for a long time, so he knows how to kind of integrate himself there. But maybe in the little bit more testing matches, he's going to have his time there proven, and he's going to certainly have a few more challenges. But that's it. For the first game, Lucky Kuraki going 3-0 down against Virtus.pro. Next game will be C-Play against School Bus. That's going to be a very good game because School Bus, obviously, with the changes going through, and C-Play being a brand new team, but we'll talk about that a little bit later.
As you said, a little bit later, I teased you guys at the start of the show that there's someone missing that you kind of want to see again, obviously, because that's all you guys really want. That's why we had to move the segment later into the show, to get you guys to stick around, obviously, because in just a couple of minutes' time, Melly will be back with you to let you know how to get involved. It's a new season coming up, and you need the information once again. And obviously, your predictions generally get you some good little prizes in the bag. So, not giving anything away, let's get ourselves out of here and get Melly in the hot seat just after this very short break.